Isaac Wilson, at one point thought to be the successor to Cam Rising. Alex, we thought that Isaac was going to be the next great Utah football quarterback, and last year was a disaster. And just catching everyone up on what happened so far this year, Isaac was in a battle with Byrd Ficklin in spring ball and even in a fall camp for the backup job. Kyle Whittingham told us Isaac Wilson won the backup job. Now all of a sudden, and there's some details that we can dive into in a moment, Byrd Ficklin, and it's been trending this way for a few weeks now, it's pretty clearly this team's backup quarterback. Alex, in your estimation, what do you think happened? And before you do talk, your mic is still muted, my friend.
Sorry, man. Bad habit. Listen, man. First of all, I one of the things that I think that sticks out to me from the preseason is one of the first media availabilities that from fall camp from Jason Beck, the offensive coordinator. He was asked about the backup quarterback situation. He was asked about what he was feeling towards the backup QB for the University of Utah, and he specifically said Byrd Ficklin and Isaac Wilson are 2A and 2B, right? They were neck and neck, right next to each other as who was going to be the backup. Mm-hmm. Now, a couple weeks into the season, Kyle Whittingham gets in front of the media and says, "Look, we're going to redshirt Isaac Wilson. We're gonna make sure that he's able to get his redshirt season this season." And then now, like you mentioned, it's very much Byrd Ficklin, and I think ultimately it comes down. I think ultimately, from my perspective, from the outside perspective, it just seems like Byrd Ficklin very much so has similar characteristics to what a Devon Dampier would bring you. Mm-hmm. As far as being a dual threat dynamic quarterback. I still think that we need to see fully what Byrd Ficklin is capable to do in the passing game. However, in the run game, he's been phenomenal. I think I go back and think about the big plays that he made against Cal Poly, the big plays that he made against West Virginia. He has a very similar skill set into what Devon Dampier is, and I think that's what Jason Beck looks for his offense and wants in this offense. And I think that's why ultimately we're now seeing Byrd Ficklin, who I thought too once he got his 4 games for his red shirt out of the way, that we would end up seeing maybe Isaac Wilson sub in, but then Kyle Whittingham says in a press conference, "No, we're not planning to redshirt Byrd Ficklin. We want him to get as much experience as possible." So that right there was the indication to me that Byrd Ficklin had won the job.
It's so weird still too, because like when you think about it, it's like, well, if you're high on this true freshman, wouldn't you want him to redshirt? And like theoretically, you could space it out to where Byrd plays some, and then Isaac plays some, and like there's
exactly
place. Like it feels like you do both, but they don't want to do that, right?
And I thought that's what they were going to do, and that's probably what they should do, but I guess that's just not the case for Kyle Whittingham and Jason Beck. It seems like Byrd Ficklin is the guy, and in this day and age of NIL and we're seeing a lot more. It feels like we're seeing a lot more true freshmen come up and start playing a lot faster and a lot quicker. And Byrd Ficklin is just another one of those cases. But again, I think I've liked what I've seen from his opportunities. Now, though, I guess, what does that mean for Isaac Wilson? What does his future hold? I haven't heard anything, right? This is just coming from my feelings and my sentiments and the vibes I get from the situation. I would be surprised if Isaac Wilson returns next season.
Oh, I would totally agree with that based on this is a weird situation. Like it's pretty clear that Byrd Ficklin is the future of Utah football. And maybe if you're Isaac, you want to get into a battle with him, but just based on how this is all gone, it feels like Byrd's passed you on the depth chart. Byrd's the future. Also, Devon's probably coming back next year. Like going into this year, I thought Devon would have like this spectacular year, and then he might have a chance to transfer up. Ain't no Miami like Cam Ward, $5 million, like $10 million probably offer coming in for Devon Dampier based on how he's looked. Devon Dampier's like been good. Like he's been a good quarterback for Utah, but he is not a transcendent quarterback that everyone in the country is going to be chomping at the bit to get their hands on. So Devon,
yeah. And I think the reality is that if you're a bigger program, if you're a Big Ten program, an SEC program, and you see a true freshman like Byrd Ficklin perform the way that he is, and maybe even the same thing can be said about a certain quarterback in Provo, Bear Bachmeier, and say, look, this guy's a true freshman. He still has 3 years technically of eligibility. Let's throw money at this guy and see what we can do, right? That to me seems like it might become a bigger norm than more so than looking at a senior like a Devon Dampier going into next season, and saying, oh, let's throw some money at the senior, but then really you only get a year of him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would make more sense from a perspective of trying to build up a squad and an offense around a true freshman, going into his sophomore season the next season, than throwing money at a senior quarterback. I mean, obviously, like Carson Beck, it's working right now for Miami to a certain extent, right? Before the Louisville game,
before the 4 picks.
Before the 4 picks and this atrocious performance against Louisville, like it was working for Miami, and so. But I think because of the way the day and age that we are in college athletics, with NIL, with people transferring free willy nilly, you're going to see more freshmen. I think more money thrown at the younger guys than opposed to a senior quarterback.
The one great point, and the one weird thing still with Isaac, I go back to. Not many people have talked about this. I've seen. I still remember the UCLA game. Like Dampier's helmet pops off. They send Isaac onto the field, and then he motions out, and Hunter Andrews is going to take the direct snap. Utah didn't like the look. They burned a timeout. I'm like, okay, that's interesting to me because, of course, when the game was out of reach, then Byrd got a lot of run, and Isaac did get in. I don't know if it was the UCLA game or the Cal Poly game, but like Utah has let some of these other guys go in there and get that experience. But like when you had to make a move, the one time this season with the quarterback, you threw Isaac out there, not Byrd. I think that what happened was, it was still so young in the season. It was the first game of the year, and Byrd has continued to grow and get better. And clearly, especially with his dual threat abilities, Alex, they feel like he gives them the best chance to win right now over Isaac Wilson.
There's probably a big possibility that that's the case, right? In that situation and in that moment, you still probably didn't know exactly what you had from Byrd Ficklin, but then obviously Byrd Ficklin goes and has a great performance against Cal Poly, does a good job finishing that game against UCLA. Goes in. Did he go in the Wyoming game? I can't remember. But then you also have the West Virginia performance, right? And so I think as the season grew older, you kind of got a better and better idea of what you had in Byrd Ficklin. And so ultimately, I think that's why now it seems like Byrd Ficklin has that starting, or not that starting job, the backup job.
Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from the smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved with Mazda. And maybe the starting job on Saturday. We're going to continue to monitor the situation on Locked On Utes. But in the meantime, Alex, tell everyone what they need to spend their weekdays tuning into.
Oh, so much, man. So much. This is a high school girls championship week, high school girls soccer championship week. It's one of the best weeks of the entire year as far as the high school sports calendar goes. And we'll be having all the games, all the championships, all the action streaming on KSLSports.com. You can hear me there. And I'm happy, happy to bring you all the action. And then, of course, high school football playoffs, man. That's also starting this week too. And so you can catch all that action on KSLSports.com as well.
I'm watching it this weekend, Alex. I see Hunter Clegg make some plays in this BYU game. I see, I'm going to botch his name, but the bountiful safety, Falatawa
Satuala, man.
That's why we have Alex on the show. I see him make those plays, and I'm like, those guys should have been Utes. And Huck Clegg, of course, was at one point. I think maybe he was always BYU. Either way, but like those are the types of things that in-state recruits, Utah needs to win. And if you want to get familiar with those in-state recruits' names, and as well as check out the great soccer action this week, make sure you head over and tune in to Alex's games this week. Alex, thank you so much for making the time, my friend. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on, man. Always a blast.
That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about the latest in another QB injury-filled week and getting you set for the Buffs. Kevin Borba of Locked On Colorado Buffaloes will join me on tomorrow's Locked On Utes.